Hello everyone, welcome back to the pursuit of health, wealth and happiness. My name is Nay if you're new. We have been renovating this 123-year-old Victorian Terrace property for a year. So to celebrate this milestone, I thought it would be fun to do a Q&A video on the whole renovation process, and I thought it would be particularly useful for people who've been watching our channel and what we've been up to get a bit of insight into like what I think of the house, what I don't like, and also some tips for people who are also maybe about to start their renovation journey too, because I would have found a video like this very useful. So if you're seeing this video for the first time and you've not seen any of our renovation videos, there is a whole playlist on my channel and you can see literally from the empty house tour all the way to the last thing that we recently did, which was tiling our hallway. And there's also a 1-year walkthrough about what we've done and what we are yet to do. So go and check that out. And equally, if you want to continue seeing and keeping up with our renovation journey, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. There are 10 questions in front of me, so I think let's just get straight into it. So the first question is, how would you describe the last year of renovating in 3 words? The last year in 3 words. The first word, probably draining. That's not really off to a very positive start, but certainly very financially and emotionally draining. And I think it's not really helped. So we bought this house literally a year ago, and it was almost getting into that peak cost of living. Everything has gone up. Labor's gone up, materials have gone up, bills have gone up, and things like general maintenance, like getting your boiler checked, like lots of things have gone up. So when you buy a house, when I think back to our empty house tour video, there were just some things we couldn't ignore, like really smelly carpets and flooring that we just had to get rid of, just to get rid of a really bad smell that just would have been horrible to live in. We started off doing too much too soon. So when you sort of gutter the house like we sort of did, you're left with no choice but to almost fix those problems straight away. The problem being is that when you've just put down a big deposit on a house and paid moving fees, and you basically have no furniture, to then have the added expense of new floorings and tiles and carpets, they're not really things that come very cheaply. So you literally just spend the next year having an empty bank account because you're trying to almost like fan this flame of living in a not very nice situation. And then equally mentally, when you're living in a house that, you know, I'm looking at the tiles that we've just done in our hallway. We spent the last year living with exposed flooring, and you could smell, and at some points even through the floorboards you could see the actual ground. So mentally, like seeing that every day and being around it, knowing that you live in a building site is not very nice, even though it was self-inflicted because we ripped out the flooring. So basically number 1 is draining. The second word I would say is that renovating your own house is very freeing. So you have that freedom which you don't get if you rent, to look at a room and be like, I'm going to paint this room the darkest blue that I can find. When you're in a rental, you obviously need permission from your landlord. And second of all, it's whether it's worth financially painting someone else's house. If you're going to live somewhere maybe long term and your landlord's cool, that gives you that sort of creative freedom, then fine. But for a lot of people, it's not really worth paying 100 or £200 to paint a room that is not yours, and you're almost gifting your landlord with free painting and decorating. So that's been nice to be able to be like, I want this dining room bright blue, I want the living room a really nice green, like really bold colours that it's not to everyone's taste, but I love these two colors. So the second word is freeing. The third word is, I suppose I've really touched on it, but investing, or an investment. Is that a describing word? But that's a word that comes to my mind, and I just think that the energy and the time and the finance you put into renovating, you very much hope that that is an investment that is going to bring back rewards later down the line. You hope that the money you put in is going to bring back that money plus a bit of profit on top that, yeah, you'll then use for the next thing. So I guess, yeah, what did I say? Draining, freeing, and an investment. Those are my three words. Question number 2, what renovation project are you most proud of? I am most proud of probably actually this feature wall. So we're in the dining room, and this room was a really boring, white, bland, dull room that just had no life about it. I don't know who paints a room white. I just think it's really boring. But as soon as I saw the chimney, I just knew a feature wall would look so amazing, and like I use it as my backdrop to my YouTube videos. I'm on our dining table, so when you're eating here, you have this as the backdrop, and when you walk in from the door and you look in, your eye is always drawn to that feature wall, and we're not even finished with it. I'd like a nice big mirror, some candles. We've also got plants, but we've got logs in the like gap. That really was so affordable, just to like chisel and chip away the like wall that was there to reveal the bricks, and then you just clean it and you stain it to the level of whitewashing that you like, and then Cody added the blue plaster underneath, and that half works really well. So I really like that, and we've got some candles down there. I've got my plant, as you can see, combined with my cocktail bar, and I've got my work station area there, which isn't finished. I just think it looks so nice. So I think that's definitely the renovation project I love most. We've actually mirrored this upstairs in the master room. We've done the brick and the whitewashing, and we probably, actually the next thing we need to do in the master room is to actually paint it a nice bold colour. So I can't wait to see what colour we decide, and I think that will really pop the bricks as well. And I just think a master room with your own naked chimney wall is just so nice. Number 3, what renovation project do you most regret? I most regret probably lifting the flooring of the hallway as early as we did. So when we moved in, the owners had laminate all the way through the hallway and the dining room, and it stank. It was absolutely disgusting, and there's no masking a smell like that. So pretty much like the day we got the keys or the day after, we ripped up the flooring because we knew we wanted to restore the wood flooring underneath. So in the living room and the dining room, there was like a whole sanding, staining process, and the quality of the floorboards was so good that all we had to do was sand it and paint it, and we were able to bring these original floors back to life. And the problem was the hallway, the quality of the boards were not as good, but by that point we had lifted all the flooring, just assuming that the quality of the floorboards were really good. They were very gappy, and it kind of made it look quite cold. But the problem was then that when we restored these 2 rooms, we already knew that we weren't going to do the hallway, and then we thought a good alternative would be to Victorian tile the hallway. Being a Victorian house, it made sense anyway, because a lot of people tend to tile the hallway, and it's a nice contrast to have like a patterned hallway against 2 exposed floors. The problem with that is because of the expense of the rest of the house, and I don't know why we took as long as we did, but basically we lived with a whole year of exposed flooring, and that wasn't really very nice. And then the expense of the tiles, which were hundreds, and then pretty much double the cost of the tiles was the cost for someone to come and fit it, because we thought it would be too complicated to do it ourselves, because there was like a layer underneath that you had to do, and it was like a whole thing. So I suppose if I could go back, I would probably have, maybe back then we thought we were trying to be financially savvy, because to hire the sander, you hired it by the hour or the day. So rather than hiring it on 2 different days and having that extra cost, it made more sense to sort of like do the rooms all in one and just have that one cost. So that's where the thinking came from. It's just unfortunate that we didn't know that we wouldn't go ahead with it. Equally, in the hallway, there was white wallpaper on the wall that we thought, why would someone put white wallpaper in a hallway? Like, why? It's boring. So we started lifting the paper off, and it revealed the plaster board. Then we realized, oh, it's lining paper. You shouldn't touch lining paper. It's almost like a protector to the plaster, and you just actually should just put wallpaper on top of the lining paper. So we spent like far too much time trying to lift away this lining paper, and now it's just like this patchy mess that we now need to fix by probably putting on lining paper and then finding wallpaper and then throwing a load of pictures on the wall. So yeah, the hallway has not been the best project, but in the grand scheme of things, like, how long do you spend in a hallway? Minutes. You come in and you go from room to room and you leave. So yeah, it is what it is. Number 4, which room in the house is your favorite and why? Well, I love the living room. I love the color, and I like our sofas, and I like our bay window, and it gets lots of nice light in. So when you're on the sofa watching a movie or like reading or just chilling, it's a really nice space. It's a really like, the ceiling gives a nice sense of space, and just the size of the room itself, it's like a generous size that's not too big and not too small. It's like a nice cozy but spacious. Like, we're able to fit in 2 sofas, coffee table, a nice big rug. We need a couple units and side tables, but there's nice shelving, so that's a nice space to chill in. This room I've just taken over. I obviously have my cocktail bar. It's where we eat. We've got the hatch that links the dining room to the kitchen, so when you're cooking, you've got friends, whoever's cooking or cleaning can still be in the conversation. It's like very sociable. This is obviously where I work, and I just love the color. Like, I love the dark blue color and the statement. I like the vintagey look to this room, like the golds and the woods. And our master bedroom, the light that you get in that room, and we've got white furniture and a cream carpet now, so when the evening light hits like through the blinds, it's just very calming. I can imagine eventually when we paint it a nice bold zen color, when that comes in, I think I can almost imagine it being like a hotel feel. And there's also some pieces, you know, we need a new bed. I think a little, is it an ottoman that you put on the end of the bed, and curtains, and maybe a TV on the wall. I just think it will be a really nice, relaxing space with candles and plants. So yeah, basically the living room, dining room, and the bedroom. They're like the 3 places I spend most of my time. So number 5, which room in the house is your least favorite and why? Well, I can say without fail, the worst room in this house is the dungeon, and that's the room that is off of the kitchen. I guess back in the day this was a bathroom, and somewhere along the way someone has ripped out the wall and the bathtub. The tiles are so old, it's very dingy, and we are toying with what to do with that room. We only really, well, we have our washing machine, so there's really no need to go in there, but it's such a waste of space. In one mind, you want to knock the wall down between the bathroom and the kitchen and make one massive kitchen, but the cost of that plus a brand new kitchen would be insane. And then I think, well, if you're going to do that, you may as well put in new windows and floor to ceiling doors at the end. Then you want a downstairs toilet and a sink, because it's so spacious downstairs. The toilet and the sink is in there anyway, so that's a real like mind messer. The other alternative is to do like a light I guess, renovation and turn it into, I guess, a utility room, tile it, put the wall back up, put in some units, and maybe still do a toilet and a sink. And another room that I don't like is the second bedroom, which is the room that basically Cody is in. He works in there and he also teaches guitar, and it's such a shame that the master room is so big and the second room is so small, because he can just about fit in there. We do not have the ability to like house people very well if they want to stay over. Like, it's quite rare that we have people over, but I think it probably doesn't help that we don't have a nice bed space that people can stay in. And I would have liked to have a second room where it's like multifunctional, that you can have a double bed that can store, you know, winter clothes or big stuff, suitcases, things like that, and have people stay over. And Cody can use it for his, you know, work and his guitar lessons, and we can use it for something else. So I would next time like to have a bigger second bedroom, if not a third bedroom, and just have people stay over, because we've got a lot of friends who live in London, so it would be nice for them to be able to come comfortably. I mean, none of them are fussed anyway, they're more than happy to stay on an airbed in the living room, but it's just a nice, like the house is so spacious, downstairs is so spacious, the master room is so spacious, and then it just doesn't quite fit. It's not really in keeping to have such a small second room, but there we go. Number 6, if you could go back in time to the day you picked up the keys, and knowing what you know now, would you have done this renovation process differently? I think what I would have done differently, I probably would have more meticulously planned the renovation. So take the living room. What color do I want it? I want it green. I want Farrow and Ball French grey green. How much exactly is that? I want to panel. How much is paneling exactly? How much is the white paint? How much is the glue? I want to restore the floors. How much is it to hire the sander? How much is the stain and the top coats? What else did we do in that room? And then I guess like how much are blinds? How much are sofas? I think it would have been much better to have said, okay, this is going to cost £2,000. I don't think we spent £2,000, but let's just say, you know, this is going to cost about £2,000. And I think I would have maybe saved up that money so that instead of doing it in drips and drabs, you just sort of do one room at a time, pay cash, whilst also leaving yourself cash to like live, and do it in one, knowing exactly how much it's going to cost. Whereas we kind of had that idea, didn't really know how much it's going to cost, and just sort of paid for everything. And if we couldn't like afford it in that budget for that month, then we would sort of spill over into the next month and then sort of finish it off the following month. But the problem is with that is we were also doing that for this room and the bedroom. It was just like a little bit too much. And then even if you couldn't do it by room, I'd probably do like a topic. So maybe start off with the floors. Okay, the floors are now done. What's the next thing we can save up? Okay, let's now do painting. Yeah, probably more meticulous planning down to the pound of how much everything would have cost. So number 7, what tips would you give to someone who's just about to embark on their renovation journey? I actually have a video which is all about the renovation mistakes that people make. So I think that would be a useful video to watch. So if you haven't watched that, go check that out, because I think that I'll probably touch on things that I mentioned in that video. But one thing I said in that video is that people don't highlight features of a period property. But with that in mind, I think it's probably important to think about whether you think you're going to live in the house long term or not, and that will be the deciding factor as to whether you can, is it worth paying like with your energy and money to do that thing. So for example, in the living room, we've got a gap under the TV where we think it would be nice to have a log burner. And the problem is buying a log burner and installing it is several thousands of pounds. That it may not necessarily add value to the house. If you look it up, there is some suggestion that it would add 5% value. Is it going to cost you 5% as well? So it's like, if it's going to cost you the same amount, then you're going to be at zero anyway, so what's the point? I would love a log burner. I think it's such a nice like focal point. It's cozy, just it elevates your room and your home, and it would definitely be like, if I walked into a house and someone had a log burner, I would for sure want that house. So it's definitely a strong feature, but in another mind, is there a point if we're only going to be here for another year or two and we can better spend that money fixing the dungeon or the kitchen that really are big selling factors of the home? So I think, yeah, consideration for how long you think approximately you're going to live somewhere, and just weigh up whether what you're going to do is going to add value or whether it's just like a personal preference type of thing. And then my second tip would be, which is what I've touched on earlier, is to maybe do one room at a time when you can like very comfortably afford it. I don't think it's really worth financially draining yourself just to have a pretty room, because it ruins other aspects of your life, and that sort of financial frustration I don't think is really worth it. And the third is just getting sources of inspiration of like Pinterest and Instagram. I found to be particularly useful to sort of think like, what would look good in a home? What kind of home have I got? I've got a Victorian. What would really look nice in a Victorian? Oh, Victorian tiles. Oh, a fireplace. Oh, some nice bold dark colours. So yeah, it's always good fun scrolling and seeing what other people have done. Number 8, would you ever renovate a house again? I don't know. Would I renovate a house again? It's hard because I don't know how much we would have made doing this. I think maybe ask me when I've sold the house and we can see how much money we've made. But in my mind, I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't see the point. You know, the idea of a new build where it's all done and like a modern home. But at the same time, if you like, you can make so much money just doing a flip on a house. So yeah, it depends. Like some people just flip houses for like a living and that's their source of income. So I'm not sure. Number 9, what do you think makes a home look expensive yet homely? I suppose I mentioned this earlier, but I think highlighting like unique features of a home makes it look expensive. So in our hallway, for example, I think we've got 2 wooden beams that have been painted white. And I think to remove the paint and make it like a stained wood and bring your eye upwards and you can see that height, I think things like that would make it look expensive yet homely, not really cost very much. And even things like our wood flooring, we just paid the cost of a sander and the stains, and yet we've basically got 2 brand new floorings that were already there and they're unique to the home. So you can say when you sell it, these are original wood floors that we renovated. So I think that really helps. And I think it's little things like those nice touches, art on the wall, like nice big statement pieces, or like gallery walls are very trendy, and not having like blank walls. And there's that balance, isn't there, between like minimalism and maximalism. There's some channels I follow on YouTube where they're like tiny apartment tours, and yet they really fill the space with objects and art and books and candles, glassware and bar carts and stuff, and it really works. And even though it's a small space, it can look really luxurious and expensive. So I think nice touches like that, candles, good lighting, and that balance maybe between expensive and like thrifty secondhand pieces always works. And I think going back to like big bold colors on the wall, I just think compared to like the white wall before to this makes this room much more expensive. And contrasting against like gold accessories, even things like this, like my glass cabinet was so affordable, it was secondhand, and it's in such pristine condition that you would not believe how much I paid for it. And it's yew tree wood, it's got the original key, and it just works really well with those gold accents. So I think I've done a good job. And then finally, well done if you've made it this far. Number 10, how long do you see yourself living in this house for? Oh, that's hard. I just think that depends on so many factors. I've obviously mentioned a few factors of the house I don't like the second room is too small. I also don't like little things like not being able to access the garden from the front. So we've got a couple of bikes, and every now and then we'll go for a bike ride, and it's such a pain to go into the back garden, into the shed, get your bikes out, go through the kitchen, go through the hallway, and go through the front door. And then when you've come back, especially when it's been raining and it's muddy, you then have to drag in your oily, dirty bike all the way through the house, through the kitchen, through the back garden. Then you have to clean up that mess. So if I were to, and I can't even lift my bike, it's quite a heavy bike. So I literally have like my tire trail all the way through, and then you have to go through and clean it. It's really little things like that that actually are like sort of make or breaks for like a long term, you know, like a home that you want to be in for like 10-15 years. This isn't that home. So it's little things like that, but we really don't have a need to leave anytime soon unless we, you know, decide to move somewhere else. You know, if we plan to be in Bristol for the next year or two, there's no need for us to leave, because this house is a perfectly good size that functions very well for all that we enjoy doing and housing people. The garden's a very good space. We've got our own spaces. We've both got multiple sort of hobbies and interests that we both like doing, and we're not in each other's faces. There's a good amount of space where you can sort of like hide away from each other and not sort of like constantly be in each other's way. So maybe another year or two, I'd really like to be able to finish this house. But at the same time, imagine enduring like 2 to 3 years of doing up a house, and the minute you finish renovating and you can actually enjoy it and relax, you then up and move. So I don't know, there's that level of emotional attachment, isn't it, where you've literally put all your hard money and your emotion into a house to then just say bye to it and not be able to enjoy it when you've decorated it to your taste. Let's say 1 to 2 years, and then I don't know, this time next year I'm sure I'll do another Q&A and we'll see where we actually end up. But location of your house is so important, and one thing that puts me off this house is the lack of public transport. We are much closer to the centre than we were in our previous rental, yet the public transport here is like dire. So if we want to go to the centre, we either have to cycle, which is great unless it's raining or freezing, drive, which is okay if you can get parking and if one of you is willing to not drink, and if you are okay with constantly having to remember whether you've paid for the parking and whether it's running out or not, or pay for an Uber. Whereas previously, again in our last rental, the bus service was so good. You could literally buy a £4 or £5 day ticket or a couple of pounds for a single here and there, and the buses are so frequent and it would take you to town in 15 to 20 minutes. So that's something that we miss, and that is something that puts me off this house is like long term. I think it's really important to have good transport links. So, but yeah, I think that is the end of the questions, isn't it? My goodness, well done if you made it this far. So that was the 10 Q&A questions of 1 year of renovating and what a year we've had. When I look back on the renovation videos, I'm like, oh, we've done so well. We've really kind of stopped that like momentum of, yeah, it's nice to look back on and see how far we've come. And it is very motivating to look back and be like, oh, you know, we should keep going, let's finish it. Hopefully the hard work will pay off, and this time next year will be a different story. So I think let's end the video there. Thank you for listening. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you want to continue seeing our renovation journey, make sure you're subscribed. And also on this channel I talk about all things health, wealth and happiness. It's not just renovation. So if that's the kind of content you enjoy watching, make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.